Hi, I'm Naomi and this is Sunny Side Up. Hi, I am here today with Naftali Hanau from Grow and Behold, and I love meat. I love the quality of your meats. I'm so excited to have you on the show. So we're going to learn about cooking steaks indoors.
Yep, we're gonna learn how to cook the perfect steak indoors. It's a lot easier than you think. You don't need to grill, you don't need to sous vide, you don't need to get too fancy. It's actually super simple.
I love it, and I believe all you need is a great piece of meat.
Exactly. So animals are raised outdoors. Our meat is not available in stores. You can buy it online or you can give us a call. When you raise animals the way we do, they just taste better. It makes a tremendous difference in the quality of the meat.
Well, let's get started. All right, we've got Sukkot coming up, and that's, a lot of cooking going on.
And a lot of grilling. But if it rains on Sukkot, you got this too.
But raining anytime, I think it's really good for people to know that you don't have to barbecue outside. You can have a great piece of meat grilled inside your house or cooked.
So this is our dry aged steak. So we take the ribs, we age them for, we have 14-day dry aged steaks, and we've got 30-day dry aged steaks.
What does dry age mean?
The least attractive way to say it is controlled rotting. But it's not rotting, it's actually aging, and the meat becomes more flavorful, more tender, and just more delicious. So we dry age the meat for 14 to 30 days, and it develops tremendous flavor.
Okay, I love that.
So we're gonna do a pretty simple dry rub here. So we're gonna use 1 tablespoon of cocoa, and then we've got 4 teaspoons cumin.
Okay.
4 teaspoons cracked pepper. And we've got the pretty ones, a little bit of red.
Yeah, I
and
like
then
those.
2 teaspoons of allspice.
Allspice. It's used a lot in Syrian cooking and Ashkenazi.
Syrian cooking and also Caribbean cooking.
Don't use it so much, so now don't use it so often. So
we got to make more jerk chicken. I love
jerk
chicken and jerk steak is great, but allspice is key in the Caribbean cooking too. But so when you're rubbing it, it's pretty simple. Just get a good rub going, get it all over.
He's getting it everywhere.
Exactly. We'll try and get all the sides. So this is a cowboy steak. People also call this a tomahawk steak, but what we're doing here is this is French. So this is being cleaned of all the extra fat and meat on the bone, so you really get a beautiful presentation. We're gonna move this over to the stove where we've got our cast iron pan preheated. The pan's been on the stove for about 25 minutes now. So low, clean, you gotta make sure it's clean so it doesn't burn or any residues don't get smelly, but low heat. You can leave your oven, your vent fan on and give it 20-30 minutes, low heat. You can start to bring up the heat after 10 or 15 minutes because you want it, as I say, screaming hot.
Okay, it's time to see this beautiful piece of meat. Here we go.
So let's do it. So it does not take much oil. This pan is screaming hot.
What kind of oil is that?
This is duck fat.
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna get a little bit around.
I see right away it's smoking.
But that's okay. It's not that big of a problem. We just spread it around and then. So while this is starting to sear,
okay,
we're gonna stick in the meat thermometer.
Okay.
You need to know the temperature of your meat. So this is a digital meat thermometer. The steak is at 63 degrees Fahrenheit.
Is that pretty typical?
Well, we took this out of the fridge because we wanted to get it to room temperature. If your steak is cold, it is not going to sear properly. It's going to start to steam and it's going to stick.
So rule 1, put your meat at room temperature before it goes
So take it. You want to take your steaks out an hour or 2 before you're going to sear them.
It's searing. What's the most important thing?
Don't touch the meat.
Okay.
Wait. Don't touch the meat.
Okay, said it twice. One more time.
Don't touch the meat. You've got to wait until your crust develops. If you start pulling at it now, it's going to stick. And you're going to lose that crust and it's going to stick to the pan. And that is not what we want to do here.
So a perfect crust is a high sear without touching. Okay.
Exactly. So now we're at about 1.5 minutes. We're going to leave this for another minute before we even touch it.
Okay, now the probe.
The probe.
How do we know what temperature?
I like my steaks at about 120 to 125. My wife likes her steaks between 125 and 130.
I would say I'd go for that too.
Yeah, 130 is probably on the medium side of rare. Maybe it's medium rare. 135 gets to medium. 140, I don't even want to go there. But there are people who do.
Right.
It's a matter of taste.
Definitely.
This thick. This is a 2-inch ribeye. You can't cook this to its proper temperature just by searing it in the pan. What you have to do is you've got to finish it in the oven. So that's what we're going to be doing, is we're going to flip it in a minute. We've only gone from 63 degrees to 68 degrees because by the time you got to proper temperature, on a hot stove, you would be burnt. your outsides would be burnt. When you caramelize protein, which is done at high heat, either on the grill, on a super hot stovetop, or with a blowtorch, those proteins turn into all kinds of flavor compounds. That's what browning is. And it really enhances the flavor of your steaks. If you brown meat before you put it into a stew, you get a more complex and robust flavor. Any real, high-level meat recipe always starts with browning. You can totally get around it. We cook in our Instant Pot without browning plenty when we're in a hurry. We've got young kids. But when you have time, brown your meat. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to see if it's coming clean, which it is. We'll try and do it from this side for the camera. So check this out.
That looks very dark, very delicious. And the inside is still going to be nice and rare.
The inside is rare. It's 73 degrees.
That's nothing.
It's raw.
That means hardly cooked.
Yeah, exactly. That's not rare. That's raw. So we're actually going to let this finish searing in the oven. So Naomi, I'm going to ask you to open up the oven and pull the rack out. Okay. We're going to drop a little bit of oil in, and I'm going to drop this pan down.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you. That's good right there.
A little bit more duck fat. This is definitely a great piece of meat for a chag.
Okay,
that is the
close that up.
best sound in cooking. I love that. Oh, baby. If you've all caught that the probe is still attached inside the meat, you can close the oven door on it with no problem, and then you just leave the monitor up on the side to rest. And we're going to keep watching it get higher and higher. And
they make these things now with like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so you can be cooking something real low, real slow, and you can be monitoring the temperature all day. So now we're going to make a pan sauce. So this is where it really gets fun. Pan sauce is almost always called for shallots because they have a little bit more delicate of a flavor. So we're going to start with the shallots, and the other ingredients we have here are a little bit of minced garlic, fresh thyme, fresh rosemary. And the duck fat's actually key. You can use oregano is good too. Fresh or dry, it doesn't really matter because none of the stuff that's in here is actually going to end up in your sauce. It's all about flavors, and we're going to strain this all out. It's all about getting the flavor from the browning, from that Maillard reaction. We're going to get that flavor. You can start to see it's called a fond, these little bits that we're scraping up. So that's called the fond. We scrape that up with the wooden spatula is key. Don't use like a silicone spatula. Metal is difficult. This is from my grandmother's kitchen. I will never let this go.
Really?
Yeah. It's the perfect tool for making a pan sauce because you can scrape a cast iron or a stainless steel pan really easily.
And with the fronds, do we deglaze those in a little bit?
So, yeah, exactly. So we're going to let these go for just another minute, and then we're going to throw in the garlic. You don't throw in the garlic first because it'll burn.
Right. Garlic burns very fast, and when it burns, it tastes very bitter. Mm-hmm. And it's really like almost a one-pot wonder, except the fact you've got this underneath.
Yeah. So, but this is for television, right? When you do this at home, you don't need to have a second. You just take your pan off the stove after you flip it, stick it right in the oven, and then when your steak is resting, you can make the pan sauce.
Got it. All right.
Now,
next step, a little bit more of that duck fat I see is going in.
And this is only the first step. There's a lot of duck fat involved in a good pan sauce.
Right. And you can save duck fat when you make duck, when you render your own duck. Or cooked duck, save that fat. It is wonderful use.
And that's what we always say, when you buy a duck, you're buying two things. You're buying a duck that you're going to eat. You're going to eat the breasts, you're going to eat the legs, but you're also buying 2 cups of duck fat that you're going to render out and you're going to use for the next month. Or in my house, maybe a week.
Nothing like roasted potatoes and duck fat.
So you smell that garlic?
Oh, that smells amazing.
So we're going to let the garlic go for maybe 30 seconds to a minute.
Okay.
Okay, and then we're going to throw in the herbs. And then it'll be wine and then broth.
Wine and broth, okay. So we want to use a beef broth. We want something strong that will hold up to all these very strong flavors.
So now fresh herbs.
Okay, fresh herbs, rosemary.
And these really, this is just to release some flavors. It doesn't take long. They don't need a lot of time to cook. And again, I didn't clean these. I didn't de-stem every bit of time because this is all going to get strained out. There's no, we're not worried about the texture.
We're just looking to pop the flavors in the herbs and the shallots.
There it is. You smell that?
Oh, the aromatics are amazing. I wish everyone could smell what we're smelling right here.
Okay, so Naomi, I'm going to pump the heat, and I would like you to get ready when I give the word.
I'm ready. What am I going to be doing?
You're going to pour the wine in when I give the word. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay. And go for it.
Okay. How much wine am I going to pour?
All of it.
How much wine is that in this?
So that was probably a cup and a half. And so we're just gonna reduce it, and we're gonna just do this by smell. Once the alcohol is cooked out, then we're gonna throw in the beef broth.
It's mouth-watering. It is so mouth-watering.
So, and the thing to note when you're reducing your wine, so the first, when you're doing this pan sauce, you want to use the reduction to deglaze. This is called deglazing. This is, I'm scraping up the fond with this wooden spatula to make sure all those tasty brown bits get released.
And the fronds, again, are the bits of onion and garlic that have dried up and got a little bit...
and the protein, it's from the Maillard reaction.
Right.
So that's what the fond is. It's
the dried up herbs, which you think are burnt, it's really just a flavor bomb, which we are releasing with the wine. Right. So flavor bomb mixed with wine, double flavor bomb.
So it's usually, usually when you're about half reduced, it's pretty safe to move on with your wine. But it is important that you don't move to your broth or your next ingredient in the sauce while there's still alcohol in there, because if you keep moving and you don't get the alcohol cooked out, you may taste it later on, and that's not too pleasant. So this is 3 cups. You could use 2 cups. You could use 1 cup. It's just.
So I'm going to use all 3 cups.
Just use it all, pour it in.
Of this beef broth. Oh, fabulous. So that must have to reduce down quite a bit.
So, but that's the thing. The more you use, the more you let it reduce. But it's fine. Our steak's at 95 degrees.
So it's growing inside, temperature-wise.
So we're going to go to 120, we said. We're going to go to a reasonable level for most people. So we've got 23 degrees Fahrenheit to rise. What is that in Celsius?
I don't know. I've been living in America for 27 years.
12 and a half?
I lost all my Celsius.
And we're going to let this reduce by probably a little bit more than half while the steak is finishing, and then we are going to mount it with fat. Okay, so we're perfect at 120 Fahrenheit. Okay. So now we're going to grab this steak. Ooh, yes.
Can I give you?
No need.
Oh, look how he does that. Amazing.
Okay, you ready, Naomi?
I'm ready. Board in hand.
You see that bottom sear? Look at that.
Oh,
look at
beautiful.
That. And now you've got a meat thermometer.
Just wow.
And we can set that to rest.
I'm going to put this down to rest over here. We've taken the steak out. We put it to rest with a piece of foil on top.
Great. And now let's finish the pan sauce.
Okay.
So here we are now reduced by a good half, if not more. So there's a couple things you can do to thicken a pan sauce. You can put in a little bit of cornstarch. You can put in a little bit of flour. All those things are fine. Or you can
just let it go.
Or you can just let it cook down. And the other technique that I like is called mounting. Ooh. So this is traditionally done with butter. Obviously that's not going to work for us. So we're going to do it with duck fat. And basically you wait till you're mostly reduced, and then we're going to add duck fat 1 tablespoon at a time and stir it in. So I'm going to let you stir.
Okay, I'll stir.
And I will mount.
Okay. So we are mounting this sauce with some duck fat. And what does this do? It thickens it?
It just makes it rich and amazing. It doesn't actually thicken it, but it just makes it awesome.
Gives it more volume of flavor.
Yeah.
I think this makes such a great Yontif meal, like something special for Chag.
Also, this is a meal that you really want to eat hot.
Even a weeknight when you want something special for the family.
And you can make a pan sauce with any steak. Anytime you cook a steak, you don't have to use a dry aged ribeye for this. You can use a Denver steak. You can use a chuck steak. This is just a great technique. If you're doing it with chicken, white wine.
That's
chicken broth, and now you've got a pan sauce for your chicken. Any protein that caramelizes can make a great pan sauce.
So you can do this with any cut of meat or protein. I'm going to hold this, you pour, it's very heavy and very hot. We're going to catch all those herbs, onion, shallots and garlic are going to be separated off, and we're going to be left with a beautiful pan sauce. Look at that. Would you throw this out?
So I dip my challah in there and eat it in the kitchen, but you're probably not going to want to serve that. Okay. It's got the stems in it, but it's delicious. It's quite flavorful.
I love that you do that.
Chef's bonus.
So we've rested this for about 10 minutes. All right, we're going to slice it open.
We're going to slice it up. We've got our pan sauce. We got a little duck fat, salt and pepper. So here we go.
It's magnificent. Look at that. It is beautiful. The smell is incredible as well. I cannot wait to try that. Look how juicy that is.
So when you let it rest, you let the juices kind of redistribute inside.
You hear about resting meat all the time. How important is it for meat to rest?
It's so important, because if we didn't rest it, this whole board would be covered in juice. But because we let it rest, the juice stays inside and does not all disappear.
Okay. So the resting just holds onto that juice a little bit more. It's like a roast. That steak is like a roast.
This is steak for 2 to 4, depending on the house. So the way to serve this,
okay.
duck fat.
I'm fascinated by this. I'm absolutely fascinated. I've never seen this ever.
So pan sauce can go over
right
the
across
steak.
the top.
And we can also put some on the side here.
Okay. This is something you could bring to the table.
Oh yeah.
And do at the table on Sukkot.
Table side. And then finish with fresh ground pepper and sea salt. And a little more salt to taste if you want to dip in.
Okay. Now, why is the duck fat there?
So this is how you eat steak. Salt, a little pan sauce, a little duck fat.
That's fantastic.
That's pretty good.
Well done. Okay, I'm going to go in there.
Do it. No forks.
No forks. It's still
No
hot
forks.
enough.
It better be hot. A little salt.
Salt. Pan sauce. Duck fat. Naf, this is amazing.
Thank you, Naomi.
I really appreciate you coming in, teaching
pleasure.
me, teaching all our viewers on Kosherdotcom, and I really appreciate every bit of information that you have shared with us today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. You can find this recipe and so many more right here on Kosherdotcom.